You're listening to The Scrimmage with Daniel Hargrove and Justin Domashevitz.
Mariners or Seahawks?
Or Beavers or Cougs?
All of the above.
All of them.
Yes.
What a terrible weekend. This is the worst.
We did get a big win over the weekend for some Bulldogs that will be fun to talk about. That'll be in the
Aberdeen and
local sports.
Hoquiam also had miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the next podcast, though.
Well, they both played really good teams.
Yes.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
We're going to break it up into two pods today.
Yes.
So this first pod is going to be about our
band is-
regional...
We're back together.
Back together. That's
Woo!
true. I feel like this happens a lot. Like we have a little time, like a little portion of a few weeks
Every
where
3
we're
episodes.
All, and then when we get back, we celebrate. Look at it. We're all here doing our job.
What?
Good job, us. So anyway, we are back together, and we're going to talk in this first pod about Northwest sports, Seahawks, Mariners, a little bit of college football, and then we're going to take a super quick intermission for Daniel to pee. And then,
If I can make it that long.
and then we will go into our local sports podcast. We're doing this because if we break it up into the audio podcasts into two separate, very specific pods, we feel like it will be easier and quicker for you to get to the part of our podcast that you want. We're doing this for you.
For you. For you. Because Justin changed his ways. He is no longer screw you listeners.
I could turn at the drop of a hat. Like
You can't prove anything.
I could immediately go back to screw you listeners really quickly.
But first, the 2-minute drill.
Let's go, huddle up. Gotta hurry. Hey, 2-minute situation, 44 seconds, hand the ball to ref. Gonna do it right. 3 jet Buckeye, don't worry.
The 2-minute drill starts now.
Daniel, your Oregon State Beavers lost a close one to 7th-ranked USC on Saturday. Did the 17-14 loss leave you feeling bummed or encouraged that the Beavers football program is headed in the right direction?
Well, the program is definitely headed in the right direction. The problem is, and I think they're a really good team this year, their defense is lights out. So hopefully the entire program is moving that way. So when these guys graduate, they're not just left rebuilding again. Hopefully they have the players to come up behind them because their defense is legit. Their running game is always awesome. The pro-style offense continues to work even in college football. The problem is their quarterbacks, That's the only problem right now. The rest of the team is really good, and their quarterback's, he's not terrible, but it's not next level. Andrew, your WSU Cougars allowed 29 fourth-quarter points and fell to number 15, Oregon, 44-41 on Saturday. Did the Cougs just coog, or how much coog could a coog if a coog could coog? He didn't like that. I don't know why that popped.
Is that your
That's all
answer?
I've got.
Okay.
That's all I've got.
I tried to turn the woodchuck into coog.
Yeah.
You didn't do it very well.
No, I'm going to try again later. Oh, I'll go again.
Yeah.
Justin, your North Carolina Tar Heels suffered their first loss of the season. Wow, it really was a terrible weekend.
Yeah.
Saturday, 45-32 at the hands of Notre Dame. Oh, you had to suffer that?
Yeah.
You lost.
Somebody's going to be
game?
very annoying on Monday.
Oh, we've already exchanged texts.
The Fighting Irish had been struggling offensively this season, but racked up 576 yards on Unk. What's going on with the Heels D? Is there D?
What's going on with the Heels D is that there isn't one.
Oh.
Like you said, Oregon State's defense is really good, and I was like, defense? What's that? Because you would think most of the time, if your quarterback passes for 301 yards and 5 touchdowns, you probably win that game.
Holy cow.
Drake May did that, and they still lost, and it really wasn't close. The Fighting Irish had roughly their season average of yardage at halftime. They've been bad this year. They were 1-2 going into this game. So this was a rough one, And North Carolina's defense this year really definitely going to prevent them from getting to even a respectable level, unfortunately.
Yeesh.
The Seattle Mariners
Yes.
have locked up starting pitcher Luis Castillo with a 5-year extension.
No.
Castillo?
Castillo.
Oh, yeah.
Castillo is the closer.
The Russian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With a 5-year extension worth $108 million, the deal will keep the 29-year-old in Seattle at least through 2028. Daniel, do you dig this deal, bro?
I dug it a lot more before today's game.
Oh, sorry.
I was really going for the punchy outro
Well,
there.
you guys had some eye contact that I thought was really intimate there
Yeah,
while
yeah.
you were waiting for Andrew to hit the buzzer. It was a moment where I felt like I could have said something like Andrew Buzzer, but you guys were staring at each other so intently. I was like, I don't want to ruin this.
Yeah.
Seems nice.
This is a moment. I might start calling him Castillo too, because he's pitching like the bad Castillo on the team. Especially, and it's so frustrating because he goes like 5 innings of giving up nothing. And then he's like, nah, I don't really care this inning. They give up 11 runs in 1 inning.
Yeah, what's going on?
11!
What is going on?
Like, I understand why the offense has been struggling because their 2 best players, especially offensively, have been hurt. Suarez and Julio have been out. So people are going, well, they got to just step up and hit. I'm like, yes, especially against the teams they're playing. But also their 2 best players are hurt.
Yeah.
But the pitching staff is perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
And they pooped themselves real bad today.
Yeah.
Like, my son has real bad poopy diapers sometimes, and this one stunk as bad as that.
Yeah. Real gross.
This one stunk as bad as when you have like a full garbage can of poopy diapers, and then you
man.
lift the lid to put another one in,
Oh, no.
and you're not prepared, and
What's the thing called? Do you guys have one of those for diapers? It's I forget what it's called, but you put the diaper in and then you like spin the thing. So the idea is by like sealing in the smell, when you open the can again, it's not going to smell
it
so
doesn't
bad.
get you.
Yeah.
Does that work well?
I mean,
I might have to get one of those.
we-
Is it a diaper genie? Is that
Diaper
what the-
genie, yeah.
Is that what those are?
I would say like if you are if you're diligent about emptying it when you need to,
Definitely not.
it works,
Okay.
but it fills up real fast because kids poop a lot.
Yeah.
And
Babies sound really icky.
Anchor
Yeah.
pooped twice at church today.
Wow.
Yeah. You did the double deuce.
Wow.
The double deuce.
Something about being in the presence of the Holy Spirit just made it all come out. You know? That can happen sometimes.
He was moved. He was moved.
He had a movement inside of him. Oh, boy. Well, we're going to talk more Mariners. So if you're worried that we're not going to get to all of the injury issues, we're going to do that
Yeah.
on the other side of the break. But before we do that,
Okay.
do you have anything on the college football you want to talk about?
I was bummed out to hear that the Cougars choked so bad.
Yeah.
Because I was really excited about their defense, especially after. Is that my phone? Gosh darn it. Maybe it's just whoever sits on this side.
It might be.
After the Wisconsin game, I was really excited about their defense, and then they just barfed all over themselves.
We apologize if you're hearing that
Yeah, if you
sound.
hear the static, I'm sorry. And then the Beavers, their defense played insane. Because their quarterback had 4 interceptions, and they were put in bad situations constantly, and they constantly stepped up, shut them down, and USC was coming in. I mean, number 7 in the nation. Everybody was talking about how amazing their quarterback was. Caleb Williams, he's the man. He's going to win the Heisman. And this receiver that was supposed to be amazing, the receiver did end up scoring the game-winning touchdown at the end. But, like, they were shutting him down constantly, and it was just like, just stop throwing interceptions. Stop it.
It's a huge letdown
Whoa
because
now. Whoa now.
I know.
what's an interception? My team doesn't play defense. It was a huge letdown because, like, going into it. So were the Cougars, the Beavers, and the Huskies all undefeated going into this week?
Yes.
Okay, so going into it, oh boy, the Cougs are undefeated, but they've got a really tough opponent.
Yeah.
The Beavers are undefeated, but they got a really tough opponent. And then late in the games, they had legitimate shot. Well, the Cougars should have won. Straight up should have won.
Yes.
But both of them late in the games had a legitimate shot to win the game.
Yeah.
And if one of them had pulled it out, it would have been really exciting.
Exactly.
And then for you guys, this is horrible. In addition to that, the Huskies won.
Yeah.
So the Huskies remain undefeated while the Cougs and the Beavs now have a loss.
Yeah, that does suck. That does make it worse. And the other thing is this might have been the last time that Oregon State plays USC.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't think they're scheduled to play him next year, and after that, USC's gone.
You know, for what
And
it's
we
worth,
could have pulled off a giant up. Sorry, Andrew, just a
Yeah,
second.
I'm sorry.
The Beavers have a rich history of giant upsets against USC. And so it was like, what a fitting way for the last game against USC to just be this giant upset to just take that out of them, and just wasn't to be. Anyway, what were you saying?
For what it's worth, WSU beat number 19 at the time, ranked Wisconsin 17-14, and then lost to number 15 ranked Oregon 41-44.
So they should
They
be
are
ranked about.
unranked.
Why are they still
So
unranked?
they probably should be ranked over 19 and under 15.
Yeah. Or,
The rankings
I actually
make no
just saw
sense.
that and I was like, son
Yeah.
of a gun.
well, yeah, I was kind of looking for Oregon State to be ranked this year, you know, because they lost to USC, ranked number 7 by 3 points. And so I was like, maybe they'll slip into the top 25. And they're like, no, they lost that game. And I'm like,
What's a quality loss?
stupid. Yeah, the rankings
Quality
are
losses
dumb.
are something that East Coast teams have, Daniel.
Oh, it's an East Coast thing.
Yeah.
Or SEC, just like straight up any SEC team.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have a quality loss.
Yeah, I mean, if you lose to Vanderbilt, I mean, it was an SEC opponent.
Yeah.
I think that's all I got to say about that.
Okay. Well, then I think I'm ready to move on to my favorite part of the show.
Ah.
Serving questions up on a silver platter where the points are made up and the rules don't matter. Time for Stump Daniel.
I have for you this week in Stump Daniel, which is brought to you by the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz, no relation.
What's the A stand for?
I have a little bit of baseball history. It's like a riddle. It's trivia,
Yeah.
riddle.
You put riddle in there, and then I thought this is a great situation to put a gif of Jim Carrey
As the
dancing
Riddler.
around as the Riddler, which
Yeah.
that might be the scariest thing I've ever seen.
Pretty scary.
Like, I know Batman, like, they've gotten continually darker and
Mm-hmm.
scarier over the last, like, 15
have they?
years. What?
I said, oh, have they?
I mean, they try to.
That version of Batman, was that the George Clooney Batman?
I think so.
Yeah, that one was pretty light.
It was pretty light, but just looking at this isolated gif of Jim Carrey dressed like a lunatic with, like, pinkish red hair,
Yeah.
it's kind of scary.
I mean, if you even just compare the Joker from that one to the Joker from the recent Jokers,
Yeah.
it's a little different.
Yeah, a
little different.
A little different. Sorry.
So I heard this on a podcast this week, and this is old. It's from 1990.
Whoa.
But I was like, wait a minute. This totally stumped me. So I was like, oh, you know what? I'll try to stump Daniel with this.
Okay.
Daniel, you've heard of Eddie Murray.
Yes.
He's one of the only baseball players in Major League history to have 3,000 hits and 500 home runs. It's a short list.
Wow.
In 1990, Eddie Murray had the highest batting average in the major leagues at 330, but did not win a batting title. How is this possible?
What?
He had enough. He had enough at bats to
Yeah.
qualify.
Okay, so he qualified.
Yep. He had the highest batting average in all of the major leagues and didn't win a batting title.
Daniel's eyes narrow.
This is what was happening to me when I was listening to it. I was like, wait a minute, what? How?
Does it have something to do, like, can you get traded from one league to the other?
Eddie Murray was not traded that season. He played the entire season with the Dodgers. You might be on the right track, though. Your thought process is on the right track.
But he wasn't traded. And it was 1990.
Yep.
He had enough at bats. Had the highest batting average in all of the majors.
He batted 330, and I'll just tell you as an aside, George Brett won the AL batting title that year at 329.
What? I have no You said I was going the right direction with him being traded,
Well,
but
with
he wasn't
someone being
traded.
traded.
What?
I'll just tell you.
Wait,
Willie-
so did somebody get traded into the...
Yeah. So National League.
Wait a second. So they separated out? So if somebody gets traded into the National League,
Yep.
then they play the whole second half, and they only keep track of his National League numbers?
So here's
Is that how that works?
Yeah. So here's what happened.
That's dumb.
Willie McGee.
Get out of here, McGee.
He won the NL batting title because he played for the Cardinals, and while he was playing for the Cardinals, he batted .335. But then he was traded to the A's. When he went to the A's in the American League, he hit .274 the rest of the season, bringing his batting average down to .324. So he had a batting average 6 points lower overall than Eddie Murray, but because he batted .335 while in the NL and had enough at-bats to qualify, he won the batting title over a guy who he had a lower batting average than.
Wow.
That is dumb. That is ridiculous. So basically, he just had a really good first half,
Yeah.
and that's all they kept.
I
For
mean,
that,
I think it was probably more than just the first half. I'm going to assume it was like a trade deadline.
Well, it had to
deal,
be before
so
the deadline.
Two-thirds, is that about where the
Yeah.
trade deadline is?
close. Yeah,
Because he
probably
had
around
enough
there.
at-bats to qualify in the NL. Yeah, he had a
That's-
really good portion of a season and then won the batting title because, not because of what he did down the stretch, but because what he did in the first half of the year.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's really bizarre.
Super bizarre. When they were talking about
Also,
this,
I feel like it's dumb.
This
Like,
came
I
from
feel
the-
like that shouldn't be able to happen.
this came from the Lebitard show, and
Should
I'll
have
just
been
credit where
a wake-up call.
it came from Mose Schrute on the Lebitard show.
There we go.
Because they've had Mike Schur, who is one of the creators of The Office, and you may remember as playing Mose
Yes.
on The Office.
Yeah.
They've had him. He kind of works in their organization,
Are you serious?
Meadowlark Media.
That's
And
awesome.
they've been pretending that he's an unpaid stats intern, and he's been calling in with a stat of the day every day to the show. And this one, when he said it, I was like, wait, no. What? No, he's got
They're
this
making
wrong.
this
No,
up, right?
This is made up.
Yeah.
It's real. You can have the best batting average in all of Major League Baseball and not win the batting title in either league.
That's bizarre.
Yeah.
That's dumb. It's funny that you bring up Mose Schrute, too, because recently I've been seeing TikTok pop up a bunch, or a reel on Instagram, since everybody just takes their TikToks and posts them on Instagram. Have you seen Josh Allen running the 40 at the NFL Combine?
No.
It's remarkably similar to how Mose Schrute runs across the yard in one of the episodes of The Office.
Like head back,
and,
upright.
and like a weird one
swing of his
arm
arm.
that swings while the other arm really doesn't.
Yeah.
That's the quarterback Allen. I always mix up his name. Did I say Jared or
You said Josh.
Josh? Yeah. Josh Allen runs like Mose Schrute.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Or maybe he ran like Mose Schrute at the Combine, which is why a lot of people thought he wasn't a good quarterback.
Speaking of Josh Allen, did you see the end of the game against the Dolphins?
Yes.
He
that was-
had a guy in the end zone for the lead, and he missed him. He threw the ball short at his feet.
I didn't see that. I must have started right after that.
And then the Dolphins punter punted the ball into his own player's butt, and it flew out the back of the end zone for a safety in one of the most bizarre plays I've ever seen in all of football.
It was so good.
Because
That
the-
guy's just minding his own business, trying to get ready to block somebody, and then all of a sudden takes a ball off the cheek at gotta be like 100 miles an hour.
because he was so close to him that it looked like in full speed that the punter had just punted the ball backwards out of the end zone. So that ball was coming off his foot hard.
It's coming in hot.
Yeah. If you haven't seen that, go back and find it. It's super easy to find if you just go to Twitter or whatever and type in Dolphins punt. It will be the first video that pops
Yes.
up.
Probably the first 20 videos.
Yeah.
And hopefully it gets a name like Butt Punt or something like
I think
that.
it's already named the butt punt.
So we are going to do some Seahawks talk, and we're going to do a little bit more Mariners talk and get into all the injuries. But first, let's take a quick commercial break, and then we'll talk about that stuff on the other side. Do you have a legal situation and need someone on your side? Let the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz be your advocate. If you've been the victim of medical malpractice, suffered a personal injury, or need representation with real estate law, small business law, or estate planning, let Jeff Domashevitz put his 29 years of experience to work for you. Call Jeff Domashevitz today at 360-612-3991 or visit domashevitzlaw.com. That's DAMASIEWICZLAW.com. I really need to re-record that commercial at some point because when you hear him say, well, when I say him, I mean me. When you hear me say 29 years of experience,
Oh,
I
yeah.
recorded that like 2 years ago.
Oh, geez.
So
It's been
he's
a while.
over 30 now.
Now you can say over
So-
30 years of experience.
And then it can just stay that way until
Exactly.
he hits 35 years of experience.
Yeah.
So that commercial will
Is
have a
35
much
not
longer.
over 30?
It's still over 30.
Okay.
But I feel like 35 sounds a lot more impressive.
Way more impressive.
I mean, and the jump from 29 to 30 sounds incredibly
Yeah,
more
huge.
impressive.
That's true.
Like,
Yeah,
so I
huge.
feel like we may have been shorting our sponsor of full credit here for the last year or so.
that checks out.
Well, the scrimmage is brought to you by the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz, no relation,
What's the A stand for?
and Ole Penn Real Estate. And we'll get to an Ole Penn Real Estate Athlete of the Week in the next pod. But
Does-
for this one,
Does Only Pen Real Estate sell pens? I feel like they should sell some pens.
they sell only pens.
Do they have pens?
Oh, wait, is it Ole Penn or Only Penn?
Only pen. Only they
Like,
only
they don't
sell
actually
paint.
sell homes. They,
They
just
just
sell
sell
only
pens.
pens. Or is it like a pig pen? Like, we only sell pens. We don't sell homes, but we
Oh.
sell homes for your animals.
like animal pens.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Way more sense. I was thinking they sold houses this whole time.
I think they actually do. In fact, I know they do because I bought one through them.
What?
Unless my house is intended to be a big pig pen.
I think of your house as a pen.
Wow. That would explain the smell. Does that explain the smell, or does teenage boys explain the smell?
Well, you keep teenage boys in a pen.
Yeah.
There you go.
Good
That's
point.
what it is. Yeah.
Well, we have some Seahawks to talk about.
We do.
We'll wrap up this pod with Mariners, but I want to talk some Seahawks. So another loss today. My impression from watching a pretty good chunk of the game, I'll admit I didn't watch the whole thing, was Geno looked pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, he had a pretty good day. 32 for 44. He actually got his average up over 10 this week.
Oh.
I mean, I saw a stat that popped up over the first two games. He had like the highest completion percentage in the league, but the lowest yards per completion average.
Week one, he passed 28 times and had like 195 yards. Or
Yeah,
something.
and so when everybody was like, "Oh, he completed all these percentage passes," I was like, "Well, yeah, it's kind of easy when you're handed the ball to the other guy.
Yeah.
Like you're not even throwing it at that point."
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, no, he played pretty well today.
Yeah. And
Is it weird that I still kind of want him to not? Like I'm
Yeah.
really struggling with this.
It's admirable that you can say that out loud.
I really, every time he does something good, I kind of cringe.
So is it because you want to be right, or is it because you want the Seahawks to lose so they can get a higher draft pick?
I think it's more that I want to be right.
Okay.
Because
Because you're a big Drew Lock guy.
no, I'm not a big kid. Although there is a component of that because I think that if Drew Lock gets his shot, then he'll poop his pants even more, and then maybe Sean Mannion will get his shot finally. So there's a little bit of that in there. But I want to be right and validated that I was the biggest proponent of Russell Wilson throughout his career. So that's what I'm going off of here. Like I invested so much. There's so much sunk cost into that, right? Like I have put so much into that if I'm just wrong.
You know it's a sunk cost fallacy.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I have put so much into that.
But you're going to double down anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because was I wrong for the last 10 years?
Possibly.
Because every time that discussion has come up, I have gone 100% Russell Wilson's amazing. All the stats to back it up.
So
And
what if?
every story that came out about the defense whining because he got special treatment, it's like, yeah, no crap, he's a quarterback, you whiny freaking babies. Do you not understand that quarterbacks get special treatment?
What?
And you guys blew the lead in the Super Bowl. That's why Russell Wilson had to try and pull him back from the grave to try and win it at the goal line because you guys couldn't stop a freaking runny nose.
To be
But nobody
fair,
brings that up. Sorry.
That was because they knocked Averill out with a dirty hit to the head.
I don't care. Next man up. Russell Wilson was throwing bombs to freaking Curse, who's really, besides late game situations, not very good.
Well, yeah, and then he went
In
to
the previous
Jets
game, he had like 5 balls bounce off of his hands.
Doesn't
I
count
don't
the game
care.
winner.
Yeah.
He gave a bunch of interceptions to the
Daniel,
Packers.
So I don't give me that because Averill was hurt.
On a serious note, what if
Russell Wilson had crap for an offensive line?
What if
Sorry.
you were right and Russell Wilson was great
Yes.
and the defense was wrong, but Russell Wilson is no longer able to run the way that he has in the past and therefore is not going to be as good of a quarterback going forward as he was in the past? Because that seems to be what the Seahawks organization, basically Pete Carroll and John Schneider's, that seems to be what their
So you
side
think
of this
you
is.
think they're betting on that and not the fact that we're just not getting along anymore and we can't do this?
Well, I think
Because if that makes more sense to me.
I'm basing this on what we've heard come out over the past couple months
Yeah.
from the different
there's been a
people
lot of
involved.
reporting on it lately. I think Brady
Henderson, yeah.
had an article about it. And I think one thing that stood out to me is, you mentioned about the relationship. And to me, I wondered immediately, was it just that Russ wanted more control and Pete was like, well, maybe and this is a total hypothetical.
Yeah. I'm
Is
fine.
it
That's all I'm doing
possible that
too.
if I had someone like Tom Brady, I'd give them more control, but you're not good at having control. So like, did he identify, as we're all, we're learning more and more that it seems like a lot of Russ's former teammates do not like him
Yeah.
in some way, although that doesn't seem true with DK. DK seems to still really like him.
Yeah, so same
But-
with Tyler Lockett.
But there's an element of that where I'm like, did they decide that the relationship was no longer viable because he said, I'd like to have more input on what's going on, and they said, that's not what you're good at. What you're good at is playing football and doing what we told you to. And I think like some of that is like the stuff with Nathaniel Hackett and the Broncos. It's way too early to judge.
Yeah.
But the beginning of their season in that aspect has been really catastrophic.
Yeah.
Like the offense. There's a video that was circulating of Russell Wilson, and we have long criticized him for not seeing stuff that's right in front of him.
Yeah.
Like missing Tyler Lockett on drags and all this stuff. There's a video that was circulating and kind of went viral of Javonte Williams standing in the end zone, jumping and waving his hands in the air while Russell is looking around for someone to throw to and not seeing the guy in the end zone right in front of him.
Yeah.
So I think it's possible that because that has gone so poorly, that now I'm starting to wonder, okay, well, did they say you can't have more control because we don't want to give up control? Or did they say you can't have more control because that's not what you're good at?
I would take that.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing about people not liking him.
I think that I wanted to add a little bit to that.
Okay.
I think there are definitely some players that don't like Russ. I feel like there's a lot of players that personally, on a personal level, like Russ and think he's a great guy and consider him a friend.
Yeah.
But who also really wanted to see him not win in Seattle last week, the week before last.
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes
that's-
sense.
So I feel like there was a lot more of like it felt like every former Seahawk was on the sidelines rooting for Seattle against Russell Wilson in that game.
Yeah.
And I don't think that
Well,
all of
every
those
former
guys-
Seahawk, as far as I heard, everybody who I heard listed defensive players.
What about Baldwin? Didn't
Yeah, I
Baldwin
thought
have
Baldwin was there.
And Baldwin, doesn't he
Angry-
also count?
Angry Doug.
He basically hated Russ the whole
like,
time, even though he made his
but
career.
even some of those players, like KJ Wright was on the radio saying, Russell Wilson is my boy. Like, I love him as a brother.
Yeah.
And I really wanted the Seahawks to win that game.
And that makes
That
sense.
also
Because
kinda
the
makes
Seahawks
sense.
is my team.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was his team. So
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense that it could be more about the colors than
Yeah.
than it being a
So
personal
I just
thing.
wanted to throw a little bit
Yeah,
of
no, that makes
You know.
sense.
Yeah, totally.
That makes sense. I think it's because some of the animosity of the people who are more outspoken about how much they hate Russell Wilson and how they haven't been to a Seahawks practice until Russell
yeah,
left. Yeah, those are
Sherman-
more the guys that I'm talking about.
Sherman specifically. Sherman hasn't he hasn't been involved with the organization at all. And now Russ is gone and all of a sudden he's like in the cornerbacks room.
Yeah.
Like, was his problem with Russell and not at all with Pete?
Maybe.
Or is it an issue
Maybe.
that Pete might be the kind of guy that's like,
That's willing to let bygones be bygones.
I decided to let you be you.
Yeah.
You being you kind of got out of control. I'm willing to accept you back as you.
Yeah.
And
And
I could see Pete being like that.
That actually seems
Yeah.
reasonable to me.
yeah. I don't know. I just think it's odd that people have been eager to jump back on the side of the people who, after they left, proved that they had major issues as humans and completely ditched the guy who proved how many weeks in a row did he go to Children's Hospital?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if you think he's fake.
Right.
He's doing that every time. He's not saying, I'm going to Children's Hospital and then not showing up. He was there every Tuesday.
Right. So this is kind of where the national...
So that's also what I'm feeling like
Yeah.
as I'm watching Gino. I have all, like, I shouldn't care. I should be excited for a guy like Gino to have that experience. But I have all of this baggage, and every time I see him complete a pass, I'm thinking, there's another person who was glad that Russell left being happy. And so that's all of the baggage I'm taking into watching every Seahawks game against the Falcons.
And
Who
really,
cares?
we're all just gonna overanalyze some random tweets and comments by
Right?
people who are just rooting for the team they used to play for. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how much stock we should put into all of it, but it is interesting to like see it all and try to piece the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've
but-
got some input from friend of the show, Sean O'Neill.
Okay.
He said that what if Russell Wilson can't run as he did in the past?
Yeah.
And then he said that's absolutely the case. I assume he was agreeing with me.
Yeah.
Russ lost 3 steps and they don't get along. And then he said, do you really want someone to have more control who thought eat the ball and nano water were good decisions?
I mean, look at some of the weird stuff that Tom Brady got into.
We're also going to apparently get play-by-play updates on the Yankees game from Francis. I won't
gross.
read them, but
Is it
they're
a
happening.
Is it a Judge home run? Because
Yeah.
if not,
No,
I
it was
don't
a Judge
care.
walk.
Okay. If there's a Judge home run,
Wouldn't
then I'll
it be
interested.
amazing if everyone they played for the rest of the season
Just
walked
walked
him?
him.
Well,
That would be-
when they
that
played
would
the Red
actually be
Sox the
kind of
other day.
crappy.
A pitcher got booed for pitching around him. Like didn't intentionally walk him, but clearly pitched around him 4
Yeah.
straight balls and got booed. Which is like, to me, I'm like, okay, that was a 9-run game.
Yeah.
Like,
Pitch.
go,
Yeah.
go get him.
Exactly.
Like, don't be a baby. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I'm like, as I'm listening to all the national talking heads talk about this, and they're like, you gotta respect history, and I'm like, that's stupid. Because first of all, like, you gotta understand, number one, all the scenarios are different. But
Yes.
like, these guys are playing for their money. Like, incentives are tied into their performance. Future contracts are tied into their performance.
Yeah.
They have to make a decision that's right for the team and for them.
Yeah.
So just because it's a 9-run game, I'm not going to say that they should change their behavior, because it's not just about what happens in the game.
Exactly.
There's stuff riding on it for them as well.
Exactly. I mean, it made me wonder if, I don't know. I kind of thought that the person throwing to Pujols the other day might have just been serving up taters for number 700. But
Like Chan-Ho Park to Cal Ripken Jr. in
yeah,
the All-Star game.
exactly. Maybe he was just giving it to him. That was really cool, by the way, though, to see number 700 and see the video of that. Anyway, we were talking about the Seahawks.
Yeah. Are you done? Because we could transition to baseball.
I feel like we didn't actually talk about it at all because this is the other
we were
thing.
dancing around the actual
This is
play on the field.
Yeah, this is the other thing is I've been hearing almost as much talk about Russell Wilson on Seattle sports as I have about the Seahawks.
because
And it's
more
all
interesting.
And it's all and they're all just trashing him.
Yeah.
And I'm like so that's also what and now I feel like I just did the same thing. Like instead of talking about the Seahawks game, I just talked about Russell Wilson the whole time.
because
Well,
Russell
it's-
Wilson is way more interesting.
Yeah. Well, you can write Russell Wilson, but he ain't right back.
Wait, no, that's not. It's Gino that didn't write. it.
Oh,
Right.
I forgot.
But he
Remember,
maybe
this
should
is
have.
Geno Smith. Wasn't he the guy who got his jaw broke by one of his teammates?
the Jets. Of course, it's
For
the
the
Jets.
Jets?
Can you be successful on the Jets?
No.
I'm going to be honest.
point.
Like, I want to do the thing that you were saying that you want to do and talk about the Seahawks, but it's so hard to be invested in this team right now.
Right.
And I think as the season goes on and it becomes more clear what they are and what they'll be playing for, like, I think there's still been this thought in the back of my head that maybe they'll come out and be better than we think they're going to be. And playoffs are extended. You get 7 teams now. Maybe
Yeah.
they'd have a shot at a wild card. Maybe. But as the season goes on, I think we'll find out, and it'll be easier to get more invested in, do I want them to win or do I want them to lose? But at this point, I'm like, I kind of just want to know what the outcome is, and I'm less interested in seeing the actual process of it.
Seriously. Penny started off like he was going to have like 200 yards today. He only finished with 66, so that's kind of a
What
bummer.
was his
Yeah,
yards
didn't he have
per carry,
35
though?
on the first drive?
Something like that. Yeah, he had 4.7 yards per carry. So they kept giving him the ball a decent amount, but it must have really slowed down after that first drive.
That's bad for my
4.7
fantasy
is
team.
pretty good, though.
Bad for my fantasy team, too. That's the other reason I'm upset, because my keeper league team has been built on Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, and now they are worthless.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to pick between one of them each week and just hope that I pick the right way, because they're not
Our
both
tight
going
ends-
off anymore.
Our tight ends are going off, though.
I mean, going off. As a whole group, maybe.
You know what?
Yeah.
What was funny though, when I'll say this is here's my one takeaway from the game.
Penny only
Okay.
had 12 carries. Just I was looking for that number.
Bleacher Report had him for 14.
12. Well, I'm on the Seahawks website, so their box scores has him at 12 attempts,
66 yards.
60 yards.
Oh, this has him for 14 for 66.
Oh, so you're you're on the team site, you're on Bleacher Report.
Yeah,
I'll
what's
check
ESPN?
ESPN.
Yeah. What's Espen say?
Let's see. Oh, ESPN.
Does it have Dallas and Walker each for 3 carries?
No, it has. Am I looking at the wrong? I'm just gonna shut up now.
Were you working at
This
the
is
wrong
the
game?
Broncos game.
I got
I don't know
14
why it showed me that.
14 carries for 66 yards according to ESPN. And this
Okay.
is the Falcons game.
14.
Yeah. All right. So
So my one takeaway from this game
One
is
takeaway.
as I was watching the offense and I watched Geno Smith try to throw a ball down the left sideline to DK Metcalf and underthrow it by about 4 yards to the point where not only did the defensive back just turn around and go slap and knock it down, but DK had no shot at even trying to fight back for the ball. And I thought in my mind in that moment, I was like, DK is going to demand a trade.
oh no.
He's going to be gone. And then on that exact same possession, just a few plays later, touchdown to DK
Okay.
on a great ball that DK had to go up and get, but he put it up because the corner was low and on one side and the safety was coming from the other side. So being able to put it up in that spot where he could go up and get it was actually perfect.
There was a view from the end zone that I saw on Twitter of that play
Beautiful.
that was jaw dropping.
Yeah.
Like he went up and that was an amazing
That play in my mind made it so DK didn't demand a trade. He'd have been out of here if not for that
I think
touchdown.
it's gonna rest on the rest of the season as well,
Yeah.
Rest on the rest.
and also on how well Pete can convince him that he's gonna draft a good quarterback next year.
Yeah.
So
What was that
baseball.
guy from UNC's name? Drake something?
Drake
What-
May?
Can you drunk for Drake? I don't know. How do you do really bad for that guy?
Yeah, well, he's a redshirt freshman, so you're going to have to wait a few
Has
years.
to wait
on
a
that
while.
one,
Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out if there was a way to rhyme that. Couldn't find anything that worked with Drake. So then I went with the alliteration. I don't think drunk works very well either. All right, baseball. Oh, today's games.
11 runs in 1 inning.
They were up 11-2, and they lost 13-12
and it sucks.
after giving up 11 runs in 1 inning.
It really sucks that they're playing so badly right now, but you also kind of understand why they're playing so badly because they're very injured, and also
But the pitching isn't.
it's kind of unlikely. I don't want to jinx it. It's kind of unlikely that they're going to lose their wild card spot.
My wife was pointing out earlier that Castillo only
I shouldn't
gave
have
up
said that.
5 of those 11 runs, which isn't good. But it was not just the starting pitcher lost control. This
the
was
next
a
three
starting
guys.
pitcher and the rest of the bullpen.
The
lost
next
control of
3
this game.
guys, yeah.
4 games up on the Orioles with only 10 games to go. It would take an epic collapse.
Okay, so what's their magic
But
number?
Their magic number is 6 according to the radio.
Here's the other
Okay.
thing.
because the Orioles just lost.
The
today.
Rays,
Oh, good.
The Rays in the second wild card spot, they've lost 4 or 6 of their last 10 as well, so they're only half a game up.
What about the Blue Jays?
The Blue Jays are up 2.5.
Okay, so what have they done the last few games? I feel like all 4 of these teams have just
The
been
Blue
struggling.
Jays have won 2 in a row, but they're 5 for 5 in their last 10,
Okay.
so they were bad before winning 2 in a row.
Gotcha. Maybe the Mariners just want to solidify that last spot, so then they get to play Cleveland, a significantly worse team than Tampa and the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
I mean, they definitely don't want to play the Blue Jays because then Robbie Ray won't be able to go to Canada.
I actually heard...
He can't go to Canada.
So
Wait,
I
did you hear?
heard something on the radio the other day that that may be lifted by the time the playoffs start.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
That would be good.
that would be good for us.
Yeah.
We've got some commentary going on in our comments thread.
Uh-oh.
Hannah is pointing out that being invested when they aren't good is what it's like to be a true fan. Justin.
I'm not a true fan of the Seahawks, and I have never claimed to
Sean
be.
is observing that Justin is never really that invested in any team, so that isn't saying much.
Not
Players. This is the yeah, that's a good point. Not true.
I'm
There's
overly
one
invested in one team.
Yeah, he put all of his investment into
did.
one bucket.
Yeah.
Sean also said that it was a complete bed crapping.
For the Mariners,
for
yes.
the Mariners. And Francis would like to hear Justin spell invested. He handles the Damashevitz attorney thing so well.
INVESTED.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't overthink it. This isn't a trick question.
No, that wasn't me
he just
overthinking
wanted-
it. That was a normal amount of thought. I'm just slow.
So yeah, there's some. I just don't want to see him go into the okay. I don't want to see them make the playoffs limping in.
Yeah,
you
that's
want to
what-
see some positive
yeah.
momentum, right?
Well, that's why I was really, really encouraged by the deal with Castillo. The fact that he hasn't pitched awesome lately makes it less fun, but it still feels like I'm looking at this going, we're not setting up to the Mariners are not setting up to be getting stronger going into the playoffs here.
Yeah.
So if it feels like we gave every last gasp and we barely made it in, that won't feel good.
Yep.
It'll be happy. It'll be like, yay, we made it. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
But
And especially when making it in this year wouldn't have made it in the last before that.
But if they
Yeah.
had continued on the trajectory they were on and won 93 games or so, then
Yeah.
it would have felt like this was more real. But now it just feels like
most valuable players injured. They're pitching. They're talented pitching rotation, not pitching very well right at the end of the season. I can go into next season feeling like, yeah, they built something good and we saw how good it could. We saw flashes of how good it could be, and I can expect it to be good.
Yeah.
That's
so
what
is
I'm
that are you looking
for.
already towards next year? Or are you still thinking that there's a chance they could make a push? Because that's where I was
am
in the
looking at
playoffs going, this
year
team is hot.
I'm
So
looking
hot.
at this year going, I don't think that they can make a playoff push
Yeah.
with Julio and Suarez out and
Well, they should
Cal
be-
Well, that's the
banged
question
up,
because
and
are those guys going to be back for the playoffs? I
Yes.
thought Julio's timeline was to be back before that.
They both are looking like they'll be back right before the playoffs.
right.
start. But they probably won't be
coming-
100%.
The first few days coming back from an IL stint is not always. It could be healthy, but I'm not looking at that going, oh yeah, we're good. I'm going, they're going to be barely back from injuries. Cal is playing through a jammed thumb. I don't even know. I feel like there's somebody else who I'm forgetting who's hurt.
I mean, Haniger's always hurt in some way, which is starting to get frustrating.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you haven't played all year. Tough it out for us a little bit here. Everybody else is hurt.
Winker
Winker
got
just
hit
got-
on the
that's right.
inside.
Yeah,
of the,
but is him getting hurt a bad thing?
Look, yes, because
Is
the
it?
good outfielders have already been hurt.
Yeah.
Good outfielders, and by
The
good
good
outfielders,
outfielder.
you mean
The good
Jared
outfielder.
You mean Jared Kelenic, the
No,
good
Kelenic
outfielder?
has been playing really well.
For
And
4
Which is
games? I
exciting.
don't want to overreact, but 4 games
Super
is really
exciting.
good.
He's got at least a hit in each one of those games. Today was the first time he didn't have an extra base
I
hit.
think he's batting like 380 over those 4 games. Or
That's
something.
ridiculous. Maybe he can only play in September. Is there a way where he can have him just stashed in AAA until September every year? What if he's amazing in October, too?
You know
What if those are just the only 2 months he can play?
He's really young.
He's so young.
I'll joke about the only playing in September thing. I think I made that joke
Yes.
earlier, but he is really, really young. It is entirely acceptable to be hoping that he has figured it out and that
Yeah.
he can be good. Like
Absolutely.
it is reasonable to expect him to have struggled and come through struggles to be good.
Yeah. He's still younger than when Dustin Ackley first came up.
Could you just not bring that name up, please?
Yeah, sorry.
I don't like
But
to talk
also,
about UNC
this-
baseball players.
The stat that was crazy to me when I heard it is he's one of 14 players in their age 22 season and younger who had 100 at bats in the MLB in the pros this year. And he's one of 30 players in all of AAA at that age to have 100 at bats in AAA.
Oh, wow.
So he is stupid young.
Yeah.
Like, he is one of 30 players in all of AAA at his age group. That's nuts.
Almost maybe like he wasn't quite ready.
Almost
and
like-
I am
well, also-
entirely aware that I wanted to see it.
I did too.
Yeah.
We all did.
Oh, yeah.
I'm wearing my Smell You Later shirt.
I
today.
like it.
Also, how crappy was that weird 2020 season, too? That
That-
really hurt the Mariners' development. Also, Kyle Lewis. I mean, they're like, God, the stuff this team has gone through this year. The fact
See,
that
that's-
they could be making the playoffs this year with everything they've gone through is nuts.
That's some of the more depressing side of things, though, because with all of the injuries that they have, Kelenic and Trammell were called up before Kyle Lewis to play in the outfield. And
Yeah.
I know that he's struggling. He's still recovering from the knee, but that sucks.
Yeah.
Like, rookie of the year. I both want him back playing well, but also just for him, that sucks.
Seriously. It makes you wonder what they're going to do next year, right?
Yeah.
Because they have to add offense. Like their pitching staff, that's not going to be where they're making the big push. But where do you add offense? Like, who are you deciding to replace?
Second base.
Adam Frazier, I mean, he
He
hasn't.
should be
but
better than he is.
He should be
Yeah.
better than
I'm
he
not
is.
saying he's
He's
been
an all-star,
horrible.
and also he's kind of picked it up.
He was an
of
all-star.
late.
He's not an all-star this year.
True, he
Yeah.
was an all-star. But that's Jesse Winker, too.
Yeah.
Except for Winker's been
the
worse.
thing about Winker is I don't think
And
they need
Winker's
to,
a terrible
they
defensive
don't need to
player.
add people to add offense in the outfield. They have prospects that they
Well, that's the
presumably
thing.
expect
Are
to
you
be
going to
doing well.
expect them? Are you gonna hang your hat on Kelenic and Trammell and Lewis, or are you gonna go get a bat?
Can you hang a hat on one of the three being good if you have Haniger and
But is Winker on contract through next year? Because then you also gotta like
I don't know
like
about Winker.
yeah, I don't know either. Anyway, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think we lost Justin about a half hour
No,
ago.
I listened to all of that. I just don't have much.
Francis
to
has a question for Justin.
Yeah.
Where did Dennis Rodman go to college?
Don't know.
I think I know this one.
What is it? Daniel's really good at this game, actually. The where did this guy go to college game? Where did he go to college? I have
Francis
no
said
idea.
Stump Justin? Where did Dennis Rodman go to college?
Can I
Yeah.
Google it? Can I?
He said,
Is he a straight from high school to
But then I-
pro player?
Maybe.
"Wait, it was college?
Yeah.
Southeastern Oklahoma State University."
Oh yeah, I knew he went to some. He went to some obscure place. Yeah.
So, what's funny is that Francis sent me the answers to that. But the funny thing is all of his texts came in out of order. So I got the text as, "That is the answer to my sudden Stump Justin." And I was like, "What is the answer?" And I didn't say anything. And then the next text said, "Also the alma mater of Auburn songstress Reba McEntire."
Oh.
And then the answer came in, and then the last text was, "My Stump Justin is on the YouTube feed. Where did Dennis Rodman go to college?" So I got him in reverse order.
I got the. You know what? I got a lot of support on my Reba McEntire take.
Reba McEntire.
I got a lot of support on
Sorry, we used to have a commercial that played on our radio stations, and it was like, I don't know what it was for, but it was maybe the CMAs, and
It's
it
a great
played
commercial.
constantly, and all it was, and it was like, and Reba McEntire, and then literally, it was just her saying her name, and so she would go, it would be like, and Reba McEntire, cracked me up every time. So when I saw that Facebook post,
Yeah.
I was kind of happy.
that. Yeah.
Angel's rolling her eyes.
Yeah. Reba McEntire overrated for those who don't know.
As
Overrated.
a singer or an actress?
Well, I've only ever seen her in the Reba sitcom, and I liked that show, but I also don't think she was the star of it. Like the whole Van Cheyenne thing is much more interesting than her life. But I think better at making sitcoms than she is at making music. I'm just gonna go out and say it. I can't. I know very few Reba McEntire songs, and none of them stand out as particularly good.
And with that bombshell, we are going to wrap up the Northwest Sports pod. Sounded like a Reba song there. So for my co-host, Justin hates Reba McEntire Namashevitz.
And my co-host, Daniel Pod Hargrove.
And our trusty producer, Andrew, if a coog could coog, how many cougs could a coog if a coog could get... They lost to Oregon. It was bad.
Gross. You've been listening to The Scrimmage.
Oh, did I not say that?
Close enough. Ready, Freddy.
Let's go. Huddle up. Gotta hurry.
What?
Hey, 2-minute situation. 44 seconds. Hand the ball to ref.
I don't want to hear that one time.
I like hearing
You're
Russ.
listening to The Scrimmage with Daniel Hargrove and Justin Damashevitz.
I like how I spent the whole last podcast defending Russell Wilson and then still got angry when I heard the Russell Wilson sound.
That was more of it was a hurt thing. It wasn't. I don't think it's anger towards Russ. It's hurt feelings.
I've never felt this way in sports before, ever.
I feel like originally our 2-minute drill intro was Drew Brees. Does that ring a bell for you guys? I'll try to find. I hadn't thought about it, but I'll try to go back and find the original one to see.
Yeah, I think that was.
We'll just erase.
It had to have been because there was no Russell Wilson.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
When we first started our original iteration of the podcast, that Russell Wilson was not the quarterback of the Seahawks.
we're old.
So old.
Venerable.
Spell venerable.
No.
Well, we don't have a 2-minute drill to kick it off with.
No, we
but
don't.
We do have a local sports roundup. You want to go with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it. Montesano pulled off a statement win over Castle Rock on Friday at Jack Roddle Field, led by Ethan Blundred's 124 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. The Bulldogs rolled to a 57-12 victory. Senior quarterback Jaden McElravy also rushed for 3 scores while racking up 89 yards on the ground and 103 through the air. Gabe Bodwell opened scoring on Monty's first drive with a 4-yard rushing tutty, and Tucker Eaton's real fast, guys.
Yep.
Capped scoring in the fourth quarter with an explosive 63-yard run. I know he's not getting a lot of play right now in main varsity time, but next year, watch out for Tucker Eaton. He's real fast.
Real fast. I still don't like Tutty.
Tutties.
Still feels
Tutties. I put it in there just for you.
The long bus ride to Columbia didn't seem to bother Elma on Friday night, led by Carter Studer and Austin Kane. The Eagles blew out the Bruins 41-7 with an impressive aerial display. Studer passed for 314 yards and 4 touchdowns, 3 to Kane, who finished the contest with 5 catches for 206 yards.
Athlete of the week?
Ooh, could be, including an 89-yard score on Elma's first possession. So that was 5 catches for 206 yards.
3 tutties.
And 3... He might not be just because you said that. Studer's other touchdown pass went to Austin Salazar. Cale Reeves scored on the ground for the Eagles, and Vince Pallett picked off a Bruins pass and took it to the house. For a pick 6.
Raymond South Bend continued its impressive start to the season with a convincing 34-2 win over 6th-ranked Adna at South Bend High School on Friday. Reigning Ole Penn Real Estate Athlete of the Week, Austin Snodgrass scored 3 touchdowns, while Ty Riedinger rushed for 76 yards and a score.
Aberdeen made the long trip to Prosser on Saturday and lost 52-14. The shorthanded Bobcats got touchdown runs from Trey Anderson and Aiden Watkins in the second half after going into the locker room at the end of the second quarter down 52-0 to the undefeated and 4th-ranked Mustangs. Aberdeen was playing without several projected starters, including senior quarterback Cale Goings and due to injury, and senior running back Jeremy Sawyer due to the worst suspension I've ever heard of. Swim move from a defensive lineman called a punch.
We'll talk about that later.
Oh, so dumb.
Rounding out our football results, PL Willapa Valley fell at home to top-ranked Napavine 46-6. PWV running back Cody Strozik scored on a 2-yard run in the first quarter for the only points Napavine has allowed so far this season.
They're so good.
Also, Wahkiakum beat Okasta 51-0 in Westport, and Hoquiam fell to visiting Nooksack Valley 63-20.
Nooksack. Have you ever wondered why Wahkiakum's a county? Sorry, it's a really small spot.
I have never wondered that. I also didn't know that.
I've wondered it too.
It's a fun county fair.
Is it?
Very small.
I bet. At the Raymond Invitational Volleyball Tournament on Saturday, Raymond took down Okasta in 2 sets, 27-25 and 25-21, to take the title. The Seagulls got 10 kills from sophomore Carson Freeman.
I know that name.
I was going to say, go figure. 5 kills from Cassie Koski and 4 aces from Kaiten Swagger in the final.
In golf, Grant Vessey's personal best 9-hole score of 37 helped lead Elma to a 174-187 victory over Tenino at Oaks Ridge Golf Course in Elma on Thursday. Robbie Allen had the next best round for the Eagles at 44 strokes.
Montesano and Hoquiam also played golf on Thursday in the Harbor. Monty took the win 194-205 at Highland Golf Course in Kazi. Hoquiam's Mick Bozich and Riley Montour earned co-medalist honors, each recording a 9-hole round of 46. However, each of Montesano's golfers scored between 47 and 50 Gavin Root led the way at 47. Xander Jones, 48. Josh Willis, 49. And
I'm going to say Aiden Sauer.
Aiden Sauer at 50.
Montesano girls soccer improved to 5-1 on the season with a 6-1 victory over Black Hills on Thursday. Junior forward Mikayla Stanfield scored a schmat trick. For those of you who don't know, that's 4 goals for the Bulldogs by finding the net 4 times. Black Hills actually struck first with a goal in the 3rd minute, which only seemed to anger Stanfield, who responded by scoring 3 goals before halftime. Sam Roundtree and Bethany Henderson also scored for Montesano.
Sticking with girls soccer, Aberdeen shut out Rochester 5-0 on Thursday. Maddie Gore scored twice. She's real good, and assisted Aman Chima on a first half goal. Scotland Lecompte and Zoe Tro also scored for the Bobcats.
That's going to do it for our local sports roundup today. But we have a couple things that we're going to talk about. I want to talk about Aberdeen football a little bit. We're going to do that on the other side of the break.
Yes.
After we name an athlete of the week. Before we go into the break, I want to talk a little bit more about this Montesano Castle Rock game.
You were there.
I was there.
You broadcast
on the broadcast with Ian Cope. Love working with Ian. And I think the important thing to note from this 57-12 win is, you know, I listened to the Cascadia Preps podcast this week, and those guys actually pay really close attention. It's Matt Evans and Rylan Spencer. They pay really close attention to all classifications all across the state. Like I'm much more hyper local focused, and anything outside of our classifications, I don't know anything about basically.
Yeah.
So when I want a little more broad perspective, I listen to those guys.
Yep.
They both had Castle Rock in the honorable mention 10 to 15 in the state range.
Okay.
Castle Rock is a program that had struggled for quite a while, but is on the rise. Mm-hmm. They gave Montesano a pretty competitive game last year, and it was believed going into this game undefeated that this was going to be a pretty good test for the Bulldogs, and this was going to be a game when Evans and Spencer were talking about what are the 1A games you're looking at this week. They picked 3 games. This was one of them because they thought both of these teams were good. And save for about a 4-minute stretch in the second quarter, Montesano absolutely dominated this game.
So they forgot that the Trico is bad at football.
The Trico...
Sorry. And until teams prove me otherwise, like La Center was pretty good for a 4-year stretch?
For a fortnight, yes.
Yeah.
La Center was good for a fortnight.
A fortnight?
Yeah.
But
it's 2 weeks, Justin.
Really?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's an actual meaning of how long a fortnight is?
Fortnight is 2 weeks.
Well, they were good for 2 weeks. You know what? You just taught me something, Andrew. Thank you. I've proved I'm ignorant once again.
I don't know why, but I don't like the Well, I do know why. Because
that's our
we
rival
play
league.
them in districts.
Yeah, that's our rival league. But last year, the Evergreen League swept the Trico League as Montesano was the 3rd team
and
out
we're
of the Evergreen
do it
League.
Again.
And they beat La Center pretty handily as the top team out of the Trico League. And at first glance, I'm willing to acknowledge that things can change and different things will happen as the season goes on. I would say the 3 best teams in the Evergreen League are significantly better than the 3 best teams in the Trico League once again.
Yeah.
So I went into this game thinking, okay, Montesano, definite advantage. I'd call him a double-digit favorite.
Yeah.
But that Castle Rock was not going to be a pushover the way that Columbia White Salmon was the week before.
Right.
And seeing the way Montesano came out of the gates with 3 unanswered touchdowns. They were up 22-0 really quickly. And I thought, oh my gosh, is this way worse than what I thought it was going to be?
Yeah.
Well, then Castle Rock responds with a touchdown on a deep bomb. And then they forced a Montesano turnover, which was a fumble. And then they scored again. Same guy, Partridge, scored both touchdowns. He had a really good game.
Yeah, good player.
And then my thought process is, okay, momentum is totally shifted. This game is going to go back to being closer like I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And Montesano got back down the field, punched in another touchdown before halftime, and then coming out in the second half, up 29-12, there was no question who was asserting their dominance. It was the Montesano Bulldogs going out there, controlling the trenches, offensively, defensively, total domination.
When I look at this Monty team, their front 7 on defense, and Wait, it's a 3-5 stack. So would it be a front 8?
It's a 3-3 stack with hybrid
What?
linebacker corners.
Whatever. That doesn't sound real.
That's just confusing.
You
Okay.
basically have 3 linemen, 3 true linebackers, 2 positions in a blood and rover that are like a hybrid
and
linebacker
dime.
corner,
They're
So that-
nickel and dime linebackers.
and then 2 actual corners and 1 safety.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
So it's like a front 8.
Okay, because it's kind of like I heard it called a 3-5 stack.
Yeah.
Is that not what it's called?
I
Do
would
they
ca-
call it something different?
I would call the actual stack part of it is a 3-3. And then the blood and the rover, which are like the extra linebackers, they line up way outside.
Yeah.
And if if the other team's in a spread, they just turn into corners.
Gotcha.
So
I've never.
defensive backs.
I'm confused.
Really.
Anyway, they're
the front 8.
Monty is so good with like those 3 down linemen. They all look the same when you see them out there in football pads from the broadcaster's booth. Like they don't look anything alike.
They're all 6'3" and they're all big.
They're all 6'3" and big and strong and fast and athletic. All of them.
Yeah.
There's not the variety that I'm used to seeing of like the Kenny Coonrad in the middle and then the faster guys on the outside. They're all 6'3".
Yeah.
They're all big. They're all strong. And Tyler Johansson
Yep.
plays defensive tackle in a very unique way, which is, I don't know about his responsibilities, but all I know is that dude can get in the backfield quicker than anybody I've ever seen.
Quicker than a hiccup.
Quicker than a hiccup on certain plays. I've seen him get to the quarterback before he can hand the ball off.
Yeah.
I mean, in the Aberdeen game, he got in the backfield before Cale Goings had the ball securely from the center, and he just ripped it away from him.
Yeah.
So, like, super quick into the backfield. They're all very strong. They're all very athletic. And when you tie that to the fact that they're all juniors, and then you got...
And they all started at least a portion of their sophomore season as well.
And then you got Mateo Sanchez at middle linebacker. And their linebackers are studs.
Yeah, it's Ethan Blundred on the weak side and Jaden McElravy on the strong side, who I would say for Jaden hasn't played defense for a while.
Yeah.
And he jumped back into it this year. And at first, when I was watching the summer scrimmages, I was like, okay, this guy's kind of trying to figure it out still.
Yeah.
He's looked really good in games.
Nice.
Really good. I'm really impressed by how quickly he made that transition.
And then who's starting at Blood and Rover for them now?
You got Jackson Wilson on one side and Caleb Ames on the other.
Okay.
And both of those guys they're kind of in that hybrid role where like they're both, you can trust them both to make tackles like a linebacker, but also they both have the speed to turn into a corner if you need them to.
And then I've seen your son, Peyton, out there on defense as well.
He's like, he mixes in
It's
at
like
like
he's-
5 different positions.
Exactly. He's like we need somebody for any spot. Peyton's the guy up on defense. And he's really, he's put in so much work.
Yeah.
And he is so
we need a
fast.
stud athlete with a good attitude.
Yeah, exactly. Who can learn and understand
He thinks
all
he's
of the
strong,
positions
but I can still take him.
in one lift. You're very specific about that. But their defense is just so stacked.
I beat him at arm wrestling too.
And then
I
Bodie
feel
is
like Daniel's still taking the kid's side in this argument. I feel like in a
I need
few
to
years,
shift.
Daniel's going to be like, yeah, you could totally take him.
Dad's strength.
You're right.
Then the corners are Tucker Eaton and Bodie Poehler. And
Both
then
very good.
Cole Eckerson at safety.
There's
There's no hole.
There's
in the
no
defense.
holes.
No.
And I think it starts up front with those 3 linemen of how dangerous this team can be. And it reminds me a little bit of the defensive line a little bit, but again, it's vastly different because the athletes are so different. But it reminds me of the weird season that was played. Was that the spring season? Was that Trevor's senior year?
It
Ridgeway?
was
Trace's senior year. Where he was at defensive end. They had Kenny Coonrad in the middle and then some other stud. I can't remember who it is right now on the other defensive end. And it was like they were the best defense in the league. And that's what this Monty team reminds me of. Like, I don't know. Like, the defense seems absolutely legit.
Well, I think if you talk to coaches they would probably tell you, because even going into halftime 29-12, I can tell you they probably weren't happy.
Yeah.
Because they not only did Montesano throw a pick and lose 2 fumbles, they also fumbled twice more that they recovered. So as much as a team can get reamed going into the locker room up 29-12,
Yeah.
that coaches of the team, they probably would tell you like gap integrity, responsibilities on each play. There are things to work on. But when I watch this team, just from a physical skill set standpoint, you mentioned Tyler Johansson, who, and I'm biased because I've known all these kids since they were knee high to a grasshopper, but Tyler Johansson is and always has been what I feel is like the ideal nose tackle that you just say, go get the ball.
Right.
And he will go, and he is not only big, but he's fast and he's explosive and he's super strong. He's also instinctive. So he kind of, like, when you're saying he gets into the backfield before the quarterback hands off the ball, it's because he had the instinct to get that kind of jump.
Yeah.
He turns his shoulder sideways and gets between the center and the guard before they know what's happening.
It's insane.
I can also get lost watching Gabe Bodwell on one side or Camden Taylor on the other, because Gabe is really slippery and fast, and he can get around the outside. And Camden Taylor at about 220 pounds is just a beast. He will go. It's the closest thing to Hutton Napier that we've had since Hutton Napier at Montesano, where if you watch his highlight film, it's him just throwing people to the ground.
He's strong as an ox.
Super strong and also quick and fast.
Yeah.
So, that defensive front really, it does a lot for Montesano, but also the way their whole defense is structured is to funnel everything towards the middle, and they blitz a lot with their linebackers. And, you and I have talked before about Mateo Sanchez playing middle linebacker, and I believe Mateo, and as a senior this year, I don't know, there's a lot of other good teams and good players in the league, so I don't know what's going to happen. Mateo, to me, is a defensive MVP caliber player.
Oh, yeah.
He is not only around the ball constantly, making lots of tackles. He's a very sure tackler.
Yeah.
He's also excellent on the blitz, and Monty will blitz their Mac a lot.
Yeah.
So Mateo is in the backfield. He gets sacks on a regular basis. So, I think if you're just looking at the front of, hey, my defensive line is going to penetrate, and they're also going to contain and funnel action to the middle, and then I've got Jaden McElravy, Mateo Sanchez, and Ethan Blundred to clean up the mess, it's ideal.
Yeah. And I think that because the talent is so good all around, you can have maybe your nose tackle do different things than, I don't know. When I look at a normal 3-down lineman set, you normally want a big hoss in there who's going to grab a bunch of dudes, take up space, and kind of like make a pile. Clear things up for, take on double teams, take on things for other guys to be able to go clean it up. But when everybody else is really good, you can get creative. And that's what I think is really cool, is that they're allowing people to be creative because they have the skill sets to do it.
Yeah.
Because I could easily see how they're like, oh, maybe we should just go more traditional at nose tackle and put in one of our biggest guys in there and then rotate those 3 guys at defensive end and keep them all fresh.
Yeah.
You could definitely do that too. But it's effective.
Well, I have now
it's awesome.
2 weeks in a row watch an offense pretty much say, the only thing I can do in the passing game is hope that I can get these linemen to over pursue and throw a short screen pass over the top of them. Both Columbia White Salmon resorted to that, and also Castle Rock tried to do that as well. And I'll give the kids credit on the Monty defensive line. They kind of learn from that and sort of identify it, and then also shrink back. And then, like I said, 2 linebackers there to clean up the mess. So I think there's a lot of respect from the opponents to this big, fast defensive line for Montesano. And I think, as the schedule gets tougher now, at Shelton this week, at Eatonville the next week after that, this is the most that Montesano is going to be tested over, more than they have the last few weeks. Yep. This is the biggest test that they're going to face, and we'll find out a lot about how they stand up in the trenches against these teams.
Absolutely. And sorry, you mentioned Hutton Napier, and I was just getting like flashbacks into my head. Do you remember that one game where like the other team had a really good offensive lineman, and they're like, oh yeah, they're going to try, and then Hutton had like 3 sacks on the first 3 plays, and he was getting triple teamed the rest of the game?
Yeah.
Was that when Hut Smash became a thing?
It's hard
because
to remember.
I was fearing for that quarterback's life.
It's hard to remember, really, because Hutton was starting as a freshman.
Yeah.
So which year did it happen? I don't know. But the thing that I remember the most about Hutton, since we're taking a trip down memory lane here, is when there was a sweep play to the opposite side of the field, and he tracked down the running back on the sideline about 25 yards downfield. As a defensive end, and the strongest guy on the field came from the opposite side of the field and tracked down that runner on the other sideline. And that was one where I was like, holy crap. What do you do? Like, just what do you do?
I don't know. Seriously. I remember hearing a story, also memory lane. I remember hearing a story about how he never got to really touch the ball, like all the way up through, because he always played line.
Yeah.
But he got put in at fullback once in 8th grade and literally ran through like 8 tackles on one play.
I believe in junior high he had 2 carries and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I think that's real. I might be making that up, but I think that's what happened. Yeah.
I have no idea where we are in the show.
Well,
sheet.
we're gonna name an Ole Penn Real Estate Athlete of the Week soon, and it's not gonna be any of the ones that we put in here because we made a lot of jokes. It's not going to be Aiken Butts or his twin brother Seymour Butts. Definitely not.
What about their older brother?
Which one?
Dick Butts.
No, it's not going to be him either.
Okay.
And it's not going to be Punt Butt from the Dolphins either. But we are going to name...
Punt.
If my dad's watching right now, he's like, oh, great. Toilet humor again.
Well, we are going to name an Ole Penn Real Estate Athlete of the Week, and there's a lot to choose from here. And we're also going to talk a little bit more about Aberdeen football. But first, we're going to take a quick commercial break.
At Ole Penn Real Estate, we have solidified our foundation on 4 core values. First, we continuously focus on growing our knowledge in the market and in our practices to bring the highest level of competency to our clients. Second, we provide a high level of integrity, compassion, and kindness in every aspect of our business. Third, we put the human element above business through humor, enthusiasm, and patience. And last but not least, we proactively respond to the needs of our clients. Our mission is to create a personal real estate experience, one person and one home at a time. With Ole Penn, it's personal.
Before we get into our Ole Penn Real Estate Athlete of the Week, I might be barred from my own home if I don't shout out the Montesano offensive line, because those guys really controlled the line of scrimmage and opened up a lot of holes for their runners, who I think they totaled as a team more than 300 yards of rushing. So I'm going to go from left to right. Camden Taylor, Seth Caton, Mateo Sanchez, Riley Chapman, Peyton Domashevitz, no relation. Those guys really did a phenomenal job up front to open up holes for the Montesano runners.
Yeah, and they got a nomination from somebody who's completely unbiased, too. Mm-hmm. Absolutely unbiased.
Yeah.
Completely unbiased.
Yes.
I still can't tell if you're joking or not.
Oh, it was from
Justin's constantly.
Sorry. It was from Peyton.
Yeah.
Who's one of them. So, yeah.
Hey, that's allowed. I encourage everyone to nominate themselves.
So let's just name it.
If you're out there, nominate yourself. Make an argument. Tell us why you should be.
Tell us why. Peyton.
And also,
Is
in
it
addition to
because-
that, if you listen to our local sports roundup and you went, hey, why didn't you mention this?
Yeah.
It's probably because we didn't know.
Exactly.
So let us know. We love to, anybody who did anything locally sports-wise, we want to give you a shout-out.
Yes.
So email us, get us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever. There's an unreasonable amount of ways to contact us.
Flag Justin down in the UPS truck on the highway.
No, don't do that.
Yeah, do it.
I'm going to bring up a couple of players. You mentioned while we were doing the local sports roundup, Athlete of the Week, and it was for Austin Kane.
Yeah, he had a great game.
Great game. 5 catches, 206 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Tutties.
It is it is amazing to me that they have 2 receivers who are that amazing on that team.
Yeah.
Because the previous week, Kyler Hackney, was it Kyler? Kieran.
One of those.
Hackney had a massive game as well against.
I think he had 3 touchdowns also.
Against a good team. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a ton of yards. So, I mean, that's impressive that they have multiple receivers with that kind of talent. I'm still leaning to, I think it's between him, personally, I think it's between him and Mikayla Stanfield.
So not Montesano's offensive line.
No. I'm sorry. Maybe, how many yards did their team rush for?
I think it was over 300.
You got to go over 400 for an offensive line. Come on.
Well, just between Ethan and Jaden McElravy and Gabe Bodwell, I think they had about 250. And then if you stack Tucker Eaton's touchdown on top of that, that's over 300.
That's over 300.
Not over 400.
I need another 100.
All right. Well, that's your goal next week, fellas. Montesano offensive line, get 400 rushing yards, and you can be the athletes of the week.
And definitely not against a Trico team.
No, it'll be an Evergreen 2A team.
Oh, seriously. Schmelton. Get out of here, Schmelton.
Shelton's good this
That's
year.
the other thing is Mikayla did it against Black Hills, and I hate
Mikayla
Black
who?
Hills. Stanfield.
Oh.
4 goals.
Schmat
trick against Black Hills. Thurston County. Barf. Bigger school. Do not like Black Hills.
I also hate Black Hills.
Yeah, I don't like them.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were getting revenge for their football team. Seriously, what was that? What happened to that game? Sorry.
Well,
do I need to go back to that? Because Montesano completely had me freaked out.
Yeah.
Because they got handled by Black Hills. So much so that I picked against them horribly the next week. And then they all acted like it was my fault.
Well,
I'm like, you went out there and wet the bed against Black Hills, and now you're blaming me. I can say it now that they're dominating again.
That's true. Well, I'll say this about that Black Hills game. First of all, Black Hills, better than I thought.
Okay.
Ended up starting the season 3-0, and I didn't think they were bad.
Yeah.
Going into the game, we knew they had some returning all-league players. Also, they do some like quirky play calling and stuff, so I was ready for all of that. What I was not ready for was 20-plus missed tackles by the Bulldogs. I was not ready for the turnovers and the penalties and all of the issues to where I felt like I couldn't remember seeing a Bulldog team play that badly.
Gotcha.
So while there was that thought in my mind that, holy crap, is this what this season's going to be? I also thought, which is why I picked Montesano against Aberdeen, not because I'm a homer. It's because of this.
Sure.
I thought, I can't imagine this group of kids who I've known for so long and watched play for so many years, I can't imagine them playing that poorly again.
Yeah.
So they really have responded in a big way. I think outscored their opponents something like 130 to 12. No, it's more than that. It's like anyway, I'm not going to try to do more math. It's something like 142 to 12 or something in their last 3 games.
Basically, they just were doing it all to spite me.
Yeah.
I'm taking it personally.
You should. They told me, actually, they hated you.
That understandable. I mean, no, it's not understandable. They did it to themselves.
They wet the bed, you said.
They did. And it threw me off. It was like a big fake.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, let's do this. Let's create our own bulletin board material by not playing well the first game so that people hate us, and then we'll blame them for hating us.
So
I don't hate you guys. I think you're all great, but come on.
For those of you who haven't stayed up to date, we're doing a pick'em challenge with not only the 3 of us and a coin in this week's case, but also with
I've been on vacation, guys.
the voice of Grays Harbor, Sports, Ian Cope, and also Rob Burns, former editor of the Daily World. We're doing a weekly pick'em and trying to see who can get more games right on local teams. And the week Montesano played against Aberdeen, I was the only one who picked Montesano.
Yep.
Everyone else picked Aberdeen, and I was the only one who was right. And many people, I felt like I won when that game was over because everyone was just congratulating me. Oh, look what you did! You picked us.
Yeah.
You picked it right.
And everybody was yelling at me and Ian.
Yeah.
The coach, so we broadcast next to the Montesano coaches booth, and after the buzzer sounded, 3 coaches all came out and looked at us and said, like, literally yelled at us for picking against us. They're like, whoa, we told you guys.
When I was down on the field to greet my son when the game was over, one unnamed Montesano coach walked up to me and shook my hand and said, I just want to thank you for being the only one who believed in us. And I was like, you're welcome. Because I won.
Yep.
But also, it extended to this week because people who I didn't see at last Friday's game were going, hey, good pick last week. Good pick against, not 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Good pick on the Aberdeen game. In fact, Jaden McElravy said, Mr. Domashevitz.
Whoa, you're old.
Yeah.
So
I just wanted to thank you. Yeah. I don't know why I deserve that amount of respect, but Jaden is a very nice, respectful boy.
Yeah.
And he said, I just wanted to say thank you for believing in us in the Aberdeen game.
What a nice young man.
And this is all to just pile more on the fact that I basically won that game.
Exactly. Draw the attention to yourself.
Exactly.
Back to Athlete of the Week.
Your
it me
wife
now?
says Ferda.
Ferda.
What's Ferda?
The boys. It's from Letterkenny.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's something that the jock hockey players say when they're going on their rants. It's apparently slang for Ferda boys.
Ferda boys.
Do it for the boys. Ferda.
Do it for the boys.
Ferda.
Yeah, that checks out. I'm still going with the schmat trick. You guys okay with that?
Yeah.
Schmat trick over the hat trick of touchdowns?
I love it.
Okay.
Because it's a bulldog. And you're never going to get me to disagree with you picking the bulldog.
Also over an Elma Eagles. You know what? I should switch my vote. Should I just go to Eagles right now just to tick off more money people?
You already said they wet the bed.
No, I'm
Daniel's
surprised.
just trying to get himself like.
Shoot, I just remembered that you rode with me. So Peyton might be at your house when I drop
He'll
you
be
off.
waiting for you out front.
He could be.
It's okay. I can still take him.
Anyway, I'm going 4
Would
goals.
you?
Yeah.
Our
To
Oli
defend
Pen.
Daniel.
Yeah, that's a good question. Our Oli Pen Real Estate Athlete of the Week this week is Mikayla Stanfield for the schmat trick, 4 goals against Black Hills.
Some people might call that Mikayla Stanfield just doing Mikayla Stanfield things.
It's true. If this was basketball, she'd be a bucket getter.
That was a really weird noise that
What's
just
it-
came out of me.
That was really weird. But it's soccer.
A
so
goal
is it-
getter?
Is it
there
a goal
sl-
getter?
What's a slang for a goal? I actually don't know.
Goal netter.
A netter?
A net getter?
A net getter? I'll have to ask Ian about that. He likes soccer things. I played for 15 years. I don't know any of it.
You do say you know nil, though.
I know
Every
nil.
time you're reporting a soccer shutout, you say nil.
I say
Is
nil.
that soccer? I thought that was.
I'm pretty sure it's soccer.
Oh, okay.
All right, if you're
I was thinking it was tennis.
that's
No,
love.
that's love.
Oh, okay.
Love.
Love.
I heard a great bit about tennis the other day. There's sorry, I'm not gonna get into it.
Next week on the scrimmage, Daniel tells a great tennis story. But this week, we're just going to tease it.
It's not great. Justin, from winners to a team that definitely had a harder go of it this week. Prosser's real good. Are they 2A or 3A?
2A.
Okay. I remember playing against a bunch of people in flag football over at school wearing like Prosser shirts. And they were really good at football back then.
It sounds like the name of a school that would be good at football.
Right? It really does.
And Mustangs. Like when I heard Prosser, I didn't even need to know that their mascot was a horse. I just pictured one.
Right? The Mustangs.
It was either the Broncos or the Mustangs or the Ponies or something.
It's like they are a TV show. Like that's what it feels like. It feels like Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
Were they the Mustangs also?
I don't know.
No. Anyway, they're real good. But what is the discussion you want to have about? Because Aberdeen is in such a tougher position than any other team in this area because they're the only school in 2A. And I don't know if you know this, but 2 of the perennial best teams in the state are 2A schools in their own league. So already they're up against it, but this is supposed to be the year. So what is going to happen now that it seems like everything, not everything, I'm not going to say everything's falling apart, but they are having some tough breaks, man. I mean, this has been a brutal start to the season. Games notwithstanding, but injuries also. I mean, it has been hard.
So here's my frustration. And are some things that I'm not going to say out loud. But my frustration is, and we talk, Daniel, all the time about, like, when we see high school kids achieve something at the top level, the conversation becomes, I want to put this in the context and the perspective of you knowing that this was not a 1-year journey.
Yeah.
This was a decade or more
So much
of
work.
hard work, sacrifice,
Yeah.
and everything that builds up to this moment. That's why I get emotional when I watch Matthew Jensen and Terry Jensen hug on the field after a state championship game. It's not because their stadium burned down. It's not because they barely got to play their homecoming game with no stands and I covered the game from a scissor lift. It's because I know that from the moment Matthew was born, his dad put a football in the crib next to him. And since that moment, they worked hard to get to that. So when I think back to, because I have a son in this age range and I've seen a lot of these kids play since they were in grade school. When I think back to what it was like watching them in grade school, you know, having friends on the other side and hearing about when these kids were too young to do weight training, they did resistance training. Like, they did what they could and sacrificed time and effort and energy in their summers and probably worked harder than 99% of the people out there to get to the point where when in 8th grade, this group of Aberdeen seniors not only went undefeated, didn't allow a single point, blew the crap out of everybody all year. So we're all looking at that, just thirsty for Aberdeen, our biggest local team, to have a great season again. So you probably have to go back to like the early 90s or the late 80s to find a great Aberdeen team where it's been mishandled over and over and over again by the adults in the room. And there's all this build up towards this Aberdeen team being the one, this being the season, because not only do you have the 8th grade undefeated kids are now seniors, but the junior class that's behind them was really good as well. This was the year. They were not only let down by people around the organization, and I'm not going to call anybody out individually, but over the last decade, they've been let down by coaches. They've been let down by boosters. Recently, they were let down by their own city.
Yeah.
They've been let down by their athletic department. I don't know how much blame to place on the children, the kids, in this scenario. Like, they just put a decade plus of work building towards something that's now, it's blown up. They're 2-2. Like, they had a chance that this would have been like the game. We're going to go play Prosser. Prosser's really good. We're going to prove who we are. And they didn't get to do it.
Yeah.
Because they've lost so many players to injury because their field wasn't ready. The city failed them. There's a new athletic director in town. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's going to do something better. They've been failed by their athletic department. They've been failed by their school administration. They've been failed by coaches along the way. So I want to look at this as this is one little Aberdeen season, and boy, that really stinks. But I can't, because my perspective is so much that it's all been funneling towards this, and I can't feel anything but terrible sorrow for these kids for having to go through this, because they've been let down not by themselves. They put the work in, they did what they needed to do, and now they've gotten to this point where this was their year, and what's happened? What's come of it?
I can't say any of it any better than that. And that's exactly true. The only thing I got to say is they've played one league game. And so it can all turn on a dime.
It's true.
But it has to... People have to stop letting them down.
Yeah.
And I hope that happens. Because I've seen the same thing. These kids... And you mentioned it. These kids have put in all the work at every possible chance they could. And I remember seeing them. I mean, I went to one of their games when they were in 8th grade. And just seeing how bought in they were to... I mean, they were looking at this from when they were in 8th grade.
Yeah.
They were looking at this season from when they were in 8th grade. Yeah. I can't say anything any better than that.
To provide a tiny bit of context, and as I said, I'm not going to blast individual people.
No.
And I'm not talking about any individual coach that's on the staff this year.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that where I'm gonna go blast somebody individually.
Yeah.
But I will say your city failed you because there was a whole plan for how the turf was going to be laid, and it was going to be ready before the beginning of the regular season.
Yep.
The athletic department did their due diligence to know what was needed to be done, and the city failed on a permit.
Yep.
There was a miscommunication on a permit, which meant that not only did Aberdeen lose its first 2 games that were supposed to be home games, and the 2 biggest local rivalry games they had to play Hoquiam on the road and Montesano on the road because their field wasn't ready because of a city malfunction.
Yep.
And then on top of that, that means they've also lost their practice field. So they have to practice on this crappy, horrible grass field that's adjacent to their regular field.
Horrible.
With holes everywhere.
Yeah.
And they lost a handful of players to injury because the field is bad.
Yeah.
And so on top of the fact that you know, you've lost your home games. Now you're losing players. You've lost players to that. And now here's some adults that I didn't even mention that let them down. Jeremy Sawyer got suspended for 2 personal fouls in the Centralia game. I watched the film. You want to know what I saw in the film? I saw Jeremy Sawyer being held relentlessly on the film by the offensive lineman that was guarding him. The only reason, in my opinion, and I did ask the WIAA for a statement on this, and the response I got was there was no conclusive evidence in the video to overturn it on appeal.
Jeez.
That's because it's a pass play, a deep pass play. So at the point where the referee says, quote unquote, there was a punch thrown, I'm doing air quotes for those of you who can't see me. The camera pans off on both the Centralia and the Aberdeen footage because there's a long pass play down the field.
Yeah.
Where if you look at the footage all leading up to that, you can watch Jeremy getting held over and over and over again with no hostility.
Yeah.
No aggravation, no escalation.
Yeah.
So the thought that, you know, number one, that referee saw that, and people can make a mistake, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But that's what the appeals process is for.
Exactly.
And then the referees on the field also didn't agree. So they huddled to talk about, was this a personal foul, blah, blah. They break their referee huddle, and they're not all in agreement the fact that this should be a personal foul.
Yeah.
So now you've lost your leading rusher from last year, the guy who rushed for, 1,500 yards and 13 touchdowns or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So in addition to all of the injuries you have, you've now lost him in a way that to me is
games.
totally bogus because not only ejected, but a 2-game suspension.
Insane.
And then the WIAA says, nope, can't do anything about that. You've been let down by officials. You've been let down by the WIAA. Add that to the list of the adults who have let these kids down.
Seriously. Not that the WIA does much right.
They did do a couple things
No.
right.
When?
I'll give you one.
Okay.
I love the fact that I don't know if we can take credit for this because I think other people were saying it at the same time. When they switched to a committee that determines playoff seeding,
That's true.
they did that right. And we said that before they did it.
That's true. But that was also after they had something right and decided to screw it up.
True.
WIA pisses me off.
I
so much.
generally think the WIAA is a mess, and also it's a monopoly, and it's something that people can't get out from underneath.
Yeah.
And they know that. So they're like, who cares? We'll just do what we want.
Yeah. They're like, this is too expensive. Well, for who? Is it too expensive for the teams? Sorry, this is a different sport. But is it too expensive for the teams that are driving a bus from one end of the state to the other end to then drive it back to then drive to the state tournament? Is that really less expensive than the way it was before? Yeah, I didn't think so. Anyway, yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm not sure if there's a better way to end the show. I mean, unless anybody's got some mailbag to kind of brighten things up a little bit. They're ending on a grumpy note
I'm
here.
revved up now.
You are so revved up. Any mailbag? Anybody with a random question on YouTube?
Well, give me a second to
Did you
step
have-
down off my soapbox. Okay, I'm down.
Are you down?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have any poll results from last week?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, we didn't have a show
Oh,
last
that's why you
week.
didn't have a show. And before that, you weren't there.
Yeah.
And I did a really poor job of
I was really glad that
trying to
we
do the show.
I was really glad that we had a show this week though, because I got to see PAX.
That-
And
he
also
is-
you guys.
PAX is very...
You want to know what's really bad? Can I end the show with one thing that I think is kind of funny?
Okay.
So in our pick'em thing, I kept texting the group like, "Here's the deadline. Here's when I want your picks in, and all this stuff."
Yeah.
And it totally didn't occur to me. Andrew lives out here where there's no cell service.
Yes.
He was on vacation from work for a long time.
Yep.
So he didn't get any of these requests. And then when it came time, I was like, "Oh crap! I don't have Andrew's picks. I know he wants Aberdeen. I'll give him
I
Aberdeen."
appreciated you making that pick for me.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And then I flipped a coin, literally, for all the rest of them. So
How did
Andrew,
I do? How did we do?
Bad. It was you did bad.
Oh, you did.
Everyone else did okay. You did bad. But so Andrew got his picks by a coin flip. It ended poorly. And also then he messaged me later and was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't get any of your texts." And I was like, we work at the same place. How did it not occur to me? Oh, shoot. Andrew hasn't been at work all week.
That is hilarious.
Bad job by me.
That is some great communication right there.
Bad job by me.
It's totally okay. I was on vacation. I didn't want to think about picking teams.
Except Aberdeen.
Well, I'm glad that you picked Aberdeen. I would have had
Who did the
serious
best?
words if you would have flipped a coin for the Aberdeen pick. I mean, I know it was a bad pick, but
Okay, so
it's principle.
who did the best here? We all picked Elma.
I think we actually might have been.
We all picked Nukesack.
Yep.
Andrew was the only Aberdeen pick. Most of it. Who won the? North Beach lost, right?
I will
Andrew
assume
was the
that
only
they
North
did,
Beach-
but I didn't actually see a score.
We had a couple people pick Adna, and they were wrong.
Yeah, that was me. I was one of those.
And Rick was that as well.
But you picked PL Willapa Valley.
I did, and I probably should have double checked because Napa Vine's always really good.
Yeah.
But I was hopeful but they played like the number
So
one
I
team in the
think
state.
you and I ended up tying, and the other
Yeah.
guys, I think Rob and Ian both did a little bit better than
Andrew
us.
was the only one to get Wakayakum
Good job.
That's right.
with that
Did my
coin
research.
flip.
How did
on
we
that
all pick
one.
Acosta and they lost by 51 points?
I was wondering that too. I was like, why were we all so sure about this? That is a weird one.
Yeah.
I thought Wakayakum was bad.
Yeah.
I thought I saw a score. I thought I looked that up and was like, yeah, Wakayakum's bad.
We don't need to dwell on this.
That was not
we did
great.
a bad job on that one.
Ugh. And Wakayakum, really, look it up. It's weird that it's even a county.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. That's going to do it for our show today. Long show, 2 pods.
Yeah.
Pods.
Yeah.
Listen to the first pod if you want to understand that.
Do it.
Okay.
So for my co-host, Daniel, Montesano wet the bed Hargrove.
He said that.
Yeah, he did.
I did say that. And Justin, you failed these kids, Damashevitz.
And Andrew couldn't get his picks in on time. Gross, our trusty producer.
You've been listening to the scrimmage.
You're breaking up. I can't hear you.
Are we breaking up?
No.